Hello, welcome back, everyone. This is Amy the Mystic Rose Tarot. So, if you saw my previous video for the Yule winter solstice reading that I did, I have fallen behind in doing my readings for the month of Capricorn and also for the Yule winter solstice. So, I was able to do that last night. I felt like I was half asleep when I was doing that video, but I wanted to get it out. So at least you have a reading as a guide for the Wheel of the Year energy for the season of winter for the months of January, February, and March. So take a look at that. And here, what I'm doing is I started this in October. So this is going to be a breakdown, not comprehensive, just a basic overview of the astrological sign for each month. So we're in the month of Capricorn. And what I'm going to do is I'll break down the characteristics of the sign of Capricorn, its planetary influence, with its ruling planet of Saturn and the house that it rules, in the 12 houses of astrology. And this will be a brief, like I said, overview, so you can get some connection of how astrology can play a role with the signs, but also within the tarot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be focusing on the major arcana cards that are influential for the sign of Capricorn. And I'm just going to get right into it because I feel I'm going to go on a tangent and I don't want to go there. So Capricorn, happy birthday to all the Capricorns. Capricorn started the day of winter solstice, which was of this year, Tuesday, December 21st. It started at 7:59 on the Pacific side of the United States and 10:59 on the East Coast. So you can adjust your time frame from when Capricorn moved into the position of the sun for this month. So Capricorn, the characteristics of Capricorn, it's an earth sign. Okay, so earth signs, focusing specifically on Capricorn, we're looking at different forms of stability, foundation, different ways of focusing, different sets of actions and perspectives towards things. Those are some of the characteristics that the element of earth has. So we're looking at that stability. Capricorn has that stability, but its focus is on work, career. They're very ambitious, and they can be at times very, very precise in the way that they do their actions. So Capricorn, for the most part, puts a lot of thought into what they're going to do relating to their work or to better themselves. I feel Capricorn, and this is no way an offense to Capricorn, I feel Capricorn can be one of the hardest signs on themselves. They could be so hard on themselves. They push themselves, I feel, more so than some of the other signs. The other earth signs are Taurus and Virgo. But those two signs, even though they're ruled by earth, remember what I was saying, it's all based on a foundation, but it's the perspective that they take. So Capricorn, I feel, out of those the two other signs of Taurus and Virgo, this is only my opinion, I feel Capricorn is the true essence of a hard-working sign. They put all their energy and their effort into a project, even into themselves, if they feel it's calling. I'm not saying that Taurus and Virgo doesn't do it, but the approach of those two other signs comes from a different angle. And so I'll discuss that when we get to the month of May for Taurus. But let's focus back here on Capricorn. So they're very ambitious, so they're very driven. But what really pushes that dedication of Capricorn to like putting all of their work, even if they have to like drag their heels, they'll still do it. They may not enjoy what they're doing, but it's just that inner drive to just finish, to complete it. And I think one of the mottos for Capricorn is I did it no matter what it was. I finished the job. I tied up more or less, everything that had to be done. And also for Capricorn, it's a sense of self-satisfaction. Once you've completed it, you've done it, you could tick it off on the chart and go on to the next one and just go through those different tasks. So it's a form of satisfaction, I feel, for Capricorn once they've done something. So I mentioned the ruling planet of Capricorn, and it is this planet of Saturn. So this is where we get that influence of pushing oneself and also testing the boundaries. Capricorn has their own boundaries and limitations when it comes to doing things. So they'll put all the effort down, but they won't really place themselves in a position where they feel that they could be taken advantage of. Capricorn can be a sign that could be a little bit more on the conservative side. I'm not talking politically or anything like this, but again, they want to really make sure the place that they're in, the work that they're doing is something that needs to be done, and that they won't have their time, their energy taken advantage of. And if they feel like that's what they may be coming up against, that's something that Capricorn will probably question and either challenge that situation or just walk away from it and go to a different environment, which would be better for them. And what I mean by environment, it could be work, it could be in a relationship situation. It has to feel right for Capricorn. So that Saturnian energy is, like I said, feeling like there's limitations, there's restrictions that are being placed into the sign of Capricorn. And that can sometimes benefit, but not too much. You don't want to have any micromanaging done with Capricorn. They need to have things done the way that they need to. I feel too, with the influence of Saturn with Capricorn, I feel that they can deal with challenges a little bit more, because that's inherent with the sign of Capricorn, astrologically inherent, that if a challenge comes their way, it almost empowers them, because it gets them to look at the situation and how they could best not maneuver around it, but how to deal with it head on. Okay, the Capricorn is the goat, has the horns and stuff, but it takes its time. It wants to make sure that whatever they're experiencing right now is something that they can manage and take care of. But one thing that is really impressive, and this is almost similar with the other earth signs, Taurus and Virgo, there is a form of patience that's needed when it comes to the work ethic of Capricorn. And this also applies when it comes to the signs of Taurus and Virgo. Okay, Taurus is fixed, so the patience that they have is doable, but only to a certain point. The same with Virgo. Virgo is more on precision. The more details they have, the better they can work. So they'll have that patience, to make sure everything's right, but they can't be waiting for too long. They need to keep moving ahead. So patience with these earth signs is natural, in the sense that they can understand and work with the situation, but only for so long. It can't be anything that's extending, because earth signs, even though it is a element of stability and foundation, they need to grow. They need to start moving forward and start working on their goals and getting things done. So that patience, if it's not, if it's being challenged and they're not seeing any effort from the waiting that's coming on from the work that they've done, it's gonna cause a rift. So that Saturn energy of patience will start quaking a little bit. Will start rumbling, and that's when that patience is starting to build up. It's just the lack of patience, I should say. It's just starting to build up because you're not seeing results. You're not seeing anything that's working towards the direction for you to move forward. So if Capricorn, they're very realistic, like all the other signs about the situation. They see things. They're the earth signs, Capricorn included, Taurus and Virgo, they're very direct. So sometimes that can be a bit hard for people to take, but that directness that comes with these signs, especially with Capricorn, they need to have answers. You know, they need to know exactly how things are working. And if they don't get it, if they're not getting the information that's needed to allow them to move forward, like I said, to allow them to grow, they can only question so much. Okay. And if nothing's coming back, what are you going to do? You're going to move on to another situation. You're going to find something that works more along your lines of actions and thinking and the way you communicate. So that Saturnian influence of Capricorn. Okay. And here, this deck is the Heavenly Bodies deck by Lily Ashwell. So it's kind of hard to see because I have the light here, but we see the owl. We see the importance of this creature, the owl representing the use of knowledge and understanding. And so that's very important when it comes to almost all the signs, to really understand where that's coming from. The house that Capricorn rules is the 10th house. So there's 12 houses that are part of the astrology system. First one starts with Aries, goes all the way to Pisces. So Capricorn is the 10th house. It's the 10th sign. The 11th house comes next with Aquarius, and then the 12th house is Pisces. I will talk about that in those upcoming 2 videos when we move into those signs. But the 10th house, and it's interesting with this deck, we see the return of the owl. Okay. And the 10th house rules career, what your calling is, things that you've accomplished or that you would like to accomplish, discipline, career. It's all work, business oriented. And so if you have a strong sign in the 10th house, also depending on the position, what degree it's in, if it's in the middle, if it's in the beginning of the house or towards the tail end of the house, will also imply how much energy is being used with the influence of whatever sign is in that 10th house. So I'll use my 10th house for example, because it's actually held in the sign of Capricorn. So of the 10th house, again, I mentioned about career, accomplishments, goals, what your calling is. With Capricorn placed in that 10th house, again, we'll use my 10th house in Capricorn, for example. There is a need to put order in the direction of where you want to have your accomplishments. So for instance, when it comes to a practice of any sorts, it could be your workout, It could be your spiritual practice. It could be music, piano, dance, anything that involves a form of discipline for learning and understanding. This also applies to studies as a student. I feel that influence of Capricorn in this 10th house rules very strongly because it shows that there's a foundation and that there is a astrologically inherent, it's a word that I want to emphasize a bit, drive to have a foundation. There's no chaos. There's nothing emotional coming around. We have that Saturn planet influence with Capricorn for that 10th house to really put focus, really set yourself down and have your pen and paper, have all your tools that you need, all your gear, whatever you're training for or working out for, have that all there, you know, and then you just go right into it and you start working. I'm noticing that there's a change with this Capricorn in 10th house for me because I'm feeling my calling in a different direction. And so this involves a bit of starting over, which I've been doing the last few years. But now it's time to really amplify it and find a direction within these shifts. So with Capricorn in this 10th house, this really shows that there's a dedication, there is a focus that can be influential for you to get to where you need to be. Now, what really changes this too, as I mentioned, is not everyone's going to have Capricorn in the 10th house. You may have Pisces, you may have a water sign, fire, air sign. Those are the influences of those signs in that 10th house is going to set the pace and the direction of how you set towards your goals, how dedicated you are. Do you move more from the heart? For the emotions, water signs, are you fiery? Do you just like, you get into something, you just go ahead and do it? Air, do you put a lot of thought into it? Do you have that discipline of just seeing things from the intellectual side of things when it comes to completing goals? And then, of course, the earth signs, what's the foundation? So there are all these different influences that come into the 10th house. So again, this is all about your calling, what your focus is on, and the discipline and the effort that you put into this particular direction that you're going into. Some people don't know where they're going, and it's going to be a longer journey. But that's one thing. If you have an astrology chart and you want to know career-wise, ambition, success-wise, look at what sign in the position and any planetary influences in the 10th house that are there. Okay. And remember, this is astrology, this is tarot. Take it all with a grain of salt. But if you start seeing patterns and you have your astrological chart read by someone, and you see that there's some issues that are either great or some issues that are more of a challenge, see where those planets and signs and the position of them are in your 10th house. And then you may get some idea as to how you can go about and change those situations. And for those who are watching this and you want to work more on the energy of your 10th house, you could do readings. You could do a tarot reading. You could put out, like here with the heavenly bodies, this deck is broken up into houses. So if I want to focus more on a reading about the 10th house, I would just pull out this card and pull whatever tarot deck I felt called to and do a reading around that, and see what do I need to go further? How much more success can I go? Or where can I go to build that success? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses that I need to be aware of? So that's one way of doing a reading when it comes to focusing on the career. So if you have a lot of Capricorn in your chart, again, depending on what planetary rulership is influencing the houses that it's in, it could it could be of great benefit, especially if you are already successful, knowing how to work and knowing how to work with your finances, and learning how to grow from one accomplishment to the next, but also learning in the process. Okay, so the next cards that I have here, okay, we're going to move into the major arcana. Now, the card that rules Capricorn in the major arcana is the Devil. Okay, in this deck here, the 2 cards, and I may even pull out a 3rd card that rules Capricorn is, the deck that I'm showing here is the Pagan Otherworlds. Okay. And so I want you to look closely here. If you look inside, there you go. We see faces. Here, here, here. And the Devil card has a very interesting background because the Devil is known as a card of dealing with one's own inner demons, addictions, obsessions, not fully, almost like sticking to old habits and not really letting go. And then in turn, what happens is that holding on to old ways of thinking, doing the same thing over and over again, patterns, they obviously affect who you are, but they also start, like here, everything starts getting more internalized. We start seeing different, literally faces of ourselves when going through all these different karmic energy experiences. We start internalizing them. And then that's where, like I said, patterns, they become part of us. And it becomes stifling. We can't grow. Capricorn, as I mentioned, is very disciplined, but they can also put a lot of restrictions on certain things, which doesn't allow them to grow. And so this Devil card can also be a negatory in Capricorn because of this, because there isn't the space. And I tend to, whenever I do a reading for someone who has Capricorn, I always emphasize about creating some space. Okay, because we have restrictions that they may have when it comes to their work, restrictions and being very hard on themselves for them when it comes to certain things, like, oh, I should have done that the other way, start being self-critical. That's holding you back. So remember, all those self-critical judgments and whatnot, they start getting internalized, and you don't move, and it becomes, you start digesting all that negative energy or that uncertainty and self-doubt, and that restriction, those limitations start growing into the Devil influence. I'm not saying Capricorns are all devils or anything, but I feel it's really important. And like with Saturn being very earthy, also very, very focused on time, things having to be done in a certain within a certain time frame, setting those goals and completing them within those times. That's a lot of limitations. I feel that with Capricorn, again, create a little bit of space. Let's just expand that so you have some play, you have something to move around. It's okay to put limitations. It's okay to put structure and foundation, to maybe be a little bit more conservative in your actions and the way that you do things, but leave a little bit of space. Don't be so hard. And I also speak to myself about this, and so you have to understand that without creating that space, there's not going to be any movement. Okay. So when you're feeling that tension, hands getting tight, the body getting tight, exhale. Okay, just take a time out And I know a few Capricorns that they kind of push, and they have all this energy in them where it's just like they're doing so many things at once, and it's starting to affect and starting to project out in different realms, physically, mentally, emotionally. So be a little bit more gentle with yourself. And this applies with Capricorn, but it applies to all the other signs. When there's an overabundance of energy of that element, too much rigidity, or too much anger, movement, or too much overthinking, exhale some of that, or a lot of that, or all of that out. Okay, and just take that minute so we can breathe a little bit. So the devil, okay, we're starting to see the manifestation of internalizing things and how they change within us. They literally change the face of our spirit inside. And so we need to be very, very mindful of this. Now, the planetary influence, hello. Let me close this for a second. There we go. Okay. So the planetary influence, it'll focus in a minute. For Capricorn, as I mentioned, Saturn. So within the major arcana, you will have 12 signs that the major arcana archetypes are associated with, but also 10 planets, 7 traditional and 3 modern, newer planets. Those 3 newer planets, discovered in the late 1700s, 1800s, are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Not in that order. But the planet that rules out of those 10 major arcana archetypes is the world. Okay, so Saturn is the card, or is the planet associated with the world card. And when you look at this card and you think about the characteristics of Saturn, structure, dealing with struggles and challenges, working hard, actually suits the world card. If you look at your world card in any of your decks, we see variations of this depending on the system that's being used. But we're seeing the outcome. We're seeing about staying within the lines, following your own feelings towards your calling, staying true, staying on the path. You're going to fall a little bit off on the sideways of your path when you get to the world. But the world is actually just that. It's the accomplishments. It's the outcome. It's the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the patience, the anger, the crying, the frustration, the challenges, the triumphs. If you can get through all of that, remember there are 22 major arcana, and I'm including the Fool with this. That's a long journey. Some of us, we all start off at the Fool. We never start off at the World. We could if we're working on a certain project, if you want to use that kind of analogy. But we always start off with the Fool, and we go through these stages. Sometimes we fall back and we get stuck, or we have to stay in a certain area for a while to learn. And what I mean by certain areas, let's say you're feeling like you're in the wheel of fortune, okay? And then you try to move forward, but then you kind of fall back into maybe the element of the Emperor, You have to kind of go back and reflect. So there can be a lot of, moving forward, taking those steps forward, but also falling back a little bit to get back to where you need to be. So I feel with the world here, this is the influence of Saturn. If you could do all of that and maintain also those characteristics with Capricorn and not being too hard on yourself, and again, keeping room, keeping some space to remain open for some moments, just to kind of breathe and to take a look back so that you can move forward. This will allow you to get to the success that you need to be in the world. The success comes through work, through who you are spiritually. I honestly, I don't feel I've ever gotten to the world. I think some of us don't. We may find subtle nuances that we think is the world, but the world, the accomplishments, is something that's just temporary. We finish something and then it's like, okay, let's continue onward. But if you do feel that you get to that state of the world, you've come full circle, and we start the journey again. If everything's been going good for you and you've gotten to this point, and let's say you have something come into your life, good or bad, we're going to start that journey for that. We're going to start with the Fool, with the Pilgrim, with the Innocent One. We're going to start with that experience over again, the Major Arcana. And that's the beauty with the Tarot, because the journey, everything's cyclical. You'll hear this with other people who've practiced Tarot. You see the patterns, you see everything moving forward, but it takes a long time. And there's no reason to be frustrated, because that's natural. It'll happen. So remember, you may, with Capricorn, may take a few steps forward, but there'll come those times where something comes in and you have to fall back a little bit. But at Capricorn influence of just remaining focused and structured, it's like, okay, so I've had a setback. I'm not going to whine and cry about it. Let's deal with it and let's keep going. You see that little goat, Capricorn. It's not the ram. It's a small version of the goat. We see it's a sea goat too, because also there's some representation of a tail being associated with the goat, like the upper body's goat and the lower part has a tail. So that also shows the connection with some systems, with the conscious and the subconscious, the lower realm and the higher realm, and how to work with those energies. So there you have it. Okay. This is, just like I said, a general overview, the influences of the sign of Capricorn. Being ambitious, but being direct and real about situations, conservative at times, but hardworking at all times, and very dedicated. But Saturn, okay, I'm going to put these two cards up again. But Saturn influence is good, but we cannot get lost or be too hard on ourselves. Give time restrictions, limitations, fine, but give some space. Give some space to take care of yourself. If things are getting a bit too much, take a breather. And that's actually hard for Capricorns, because they enjoy working. They like to keep busy. But sooner or later, that your body, your mind, your spirit's going to tell you otherwise. And it's going to KO you, and you're going to just go, okay, all right, I got to take a time out. So that's the outcome by pushing yourself too far when your body and your mind tells you otherwise. But if you can listen and watch for signs that maybe you're pushing yourself too much, That's a time to call out for yourself. And remember with the devil, okay? We can get overwhelmed and very involved in certain things and letting it get to us and letting it become a part of us, which in turn can actually start digesting in a way that's not too healthy and not very detrimental to yourself. So that's a little bit of Capricorn. I want to show very quick. There are court cards that are associated with the astrological signs. And just very quick, Queen of Pentacles. This is a catch-22. You can assign this. I assign it with Capricorn, but some people result it with Taurus, because we have the horns there, but this looks more like a ram. So for me, the Queen of Pentacles is, I associate it with Capricorn. And with this card, I'll show one more time. With this card, we're seeing the results of the hard work and enjoying, letting go of that Saturnian energy at this moment with the Queen of Pentacles, and just enjoying literally what you've earned, what you've worked so hard for, taking that time out to take care of yourself. Alrighty. Okay, so that's an overview with just a little bit of the major arcana influence of the world and the devil, the court card, Queen of Pentacles. I associate with Capricorn. You can associate it with Taurus. Again, different systems out there can associate the different astrological signs with some of these court cards. House 10, ruled by Capricorn. So again, look into your 10th house if you have a chart and just see exactly your pattern with success, with work, with your career, how you're driven, how you approach these things, what your calling is, what do you feel your true calling is, and how much you go after it. You know, how much are you driven towards seeking it out and making it part of who you are. So 10th house. Happy birthday again, Capricorn. Capricorn, again, it's December 21st, and it takes us to January 19th. So from January 20th to, I believe, February 19th is ruled by Aquarius. And I will do the video for that and do very similar. What I have here, talk about the planetary influence of that sign, Aquarius, the house that it rules, and just so you can get a better understanding and how you can apply some of these influences into your life, but also into your readings. And I have in the description, I'm gonna be talking about this more. This Monday, I have enrollment starting for the intro to tarot astrology. If you are interested in that, let me know, email me. I still have to set up something like a page on my website so people can have all the information that they need. That's how behind I am. So ideally, I want to start this course the middle of January, if I can. So take a look at that. And I have a video. It's in the link. There's a link in the description where I just talk briefly about the intro to tarot astrology. We're going to start off with the major arcana. So we will focus on those energies for about 7 weeks, and then seeing if the interest is there to grow into the minor arcana, which is 36 decans, which will be a longer program. So so that's it. So stay tuned. Coming up, I will have readings for the next 4 elemental signs for the month of Capricorn. So I will be posting these over the next 2 days. Since I'm behind, I want to get these videos out. And these will be tarot readings based on the sign of Capricorn, but focusing on the elemental astrological signs fire, air, earth, water. Okay, and I'll explain that when I do the videos for those readings. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. I hope you're having a very nice holiday. Hopefully it's relaxing, and stay tuned. And I will be seeing you virtually again very soon.